What is up? Welcome to your therapy session. It is Monday's Hangxiety for week 14. We are recapping all of Sunday's action. All in all, a really good week for fantasy football. There were some wide receivers that let people down. There were some quarterbacks that exited early. I have a feeling it may have cost some people some playoff spots. Did you get in? Do you need a Monday miracle? Let us know. Let's get started. What is up? Welcome to Monday's Hangxiety, your fantasy football therapy session. We are ready to break down all of Week 14's action. I'm hosting today, no Gator J. It's Ryan, Josh in the co-pilot seat. How you doing this morning, my friend?
Man, I'll tell you, I've got some star-studded dynasty teams, and they basically said, you know what? You can take the week off because we are too. And I'm just like, goddamn. Awful. So that's why I was kind of rolling my eyes when you were talking about the good fantasy performances. I was like,
Well, let me break down to you why I was talking about the good fantasy performances. And let me just start off by saying we see the chat. It's all familiar names. You know we're going to get to you. We don't ever miss a chat. But Josh, when I was doing our show sheet today and looking for the disappointments, I couldn't earmark one quarterback outside of the one you picked who was an actual disappointment this week.
I mean, that's fair. I just felt like everybody was just kind of average.
I was to say, and then the running backs,
you had the Josh Allens, you had the Joe Burrows. All right, cool. Shedeur Sanders comes out of nowhere, which we'll talk about him in a little bit. But everybody else was just, they were all just like this. Everybody was just in a box.
Yeah.
And there wasn't, I'm actually kind of thinking about this now because I really want to look at it. But so from QB3 at 23.4, Bo Nix at QB15 was at 16.
Yeah. So one touchdown.
They were all, yeah, it was one touchdown was the difference, really.
Yeah.
No, I think that's average.
Fair. I saw the worst fantasy take ever, and I don't remember the site because I would call them out. But they were trying to explain why Brandon Aubrey is a league winner this year and how using a first-round pick on a kicker might be advisable. And I so badly wanted to be like, tell me you don't understand positional advantage without telling me you don't understand positional advantage. First of all, everybody in the chat was calling me, saying that Thursday was my wet dream, and it basically was. Brandon Aubrey versus Jake Bates, two of my favorite kickers. They both go off. What a night. Brandon Aubrey is not even the kicker one. How is he your fucking stat point? Because guess what? Yeah, go ahead and use your first round pick on Brandon Aubrey. And then I'll pick up Jason Myers for free after the draft, who is the number one kicker in fantasy right now. So people are dumb. Don't take a kicker at all. Certainly not in the first round. But Josh, we've already wasted too much time on the intro, though it was all about week 14. I'll remind everybody, we're going to give you a lot of content today. You're going to love it. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, hit that follow button. We do have super chat. If you feel like you're waiting too long to get a question answered, give us a couple bucks. We'll answer the question ahead of everybody else, but we will answer every single question in the chat, whether you pay us or not. And if you want to talk fantasy after the show is over, we do have a completely free Discord link in the description of this video. Josh dropping it into the chat right now. Let you guys get into that Discord. Happy to have you. Josh, normally I would say let's not start with the chat, but these folks have been inundating us already. So let's go ahead and kick this thing off with the chat. I'll remind you guys, we love getting the comments. If you guys had someone sink your season, if week 14 was the breaking point, let us know in the chat. Josh, let's start this thing off with Woods Girl, who was in here before the show even started. Is Stephon Diggs even worth hanging on to with Kayshon Boutte back? Leading the league in points this week. Wouldn't mind grabbing Brock Purdy. And Josh, I think that's interesting game theory. If you can drop bye week for bye week players, which I'm seeing happening in a lot of leagues right now. So Woods Girl can drop Diggs, grab Brock Purdy, and then have a Matt Stafford backup. Current wide receivers are Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Alec Pierce, Luther Burden, and Tedero McMillan.
I mean, really, you're looking at Godwin and McMillan as your starters. Really not sure how well Pierce is going to roll with a rookie at quarterback. I mean, the way that Diggs has been playing, I'm fine dropping him. If you feel that you need a backup, I would almost rather see if there's a different wide receiver that you can grab.
Yeah, that's my thing is, if Matt Stafford goes down, I don't know that you're going to be like, damn, I really need Brock Purdy. Like, I feel like there are quarterbacks out there, one who we're going to talk with to start the show. I'm just saying streaming the position is a little bit easier, certainly in the playoffs, Josh, because you're really only competing with 6 other teams. I'm not in a big rush to go get Brock Purdy, plain and simple.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I have Purdy as one of my QBs in a super flex league, and I don't even love it. So
I do think Diggs is droppable, which is something we'll talk about a lot on tomorrow's show. Josh, in one of my leagues, for some stupid ass reason, someone dropped Brian Robinson to get a bye week player. It's a non-playoff team. It was a very weird move. I am in the playoffs and have Christian McCaffrey. I'm dropping Diggs for Brian Robinson tomorrow.
Yeah, like that makes sense because you want to be able to cuff your stud.
Yep. And then that brings me to the question of who do I cuff Devon Achane to? Because now they're both scoring touchdowns, and that makes me really worried. But that's not a question for this show. Moving on to Jonathan Santiago. Needs Barkley to get 16 points to lock down the bye. But as the Mahomes owner, would you pick up Jacoby Brissett? Yes. Everybody on this show would highly advise picking up Jacoby Brissett. I do get why the Mahomes manager, Josh, has not picked up Jacoby Brissett yet. Until these last couple of weeks, you thought you were in great shape with Patrick.
Yeah, and I mean, he is still the QB2 on the season in fantasy. Like, it's not like he's having a bad season statistically from fantasy perspective because he has over 400 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns. But, I mean, look, I'm going to talk a little bit about Mahomes later, so I don't want to get too much into it. But, I mean, really, at the end of the day, what you're looking for is consistency. There is no more consistent quarterback in fantasy football right now than Jacoby Brissett.
Which is just a phrase, if you had paid me $1 million at the beginning of the season, I would
every single game he started but one, he has had at least 2 touchdown passes, and in every single game he started, he's had over 250 yards.
Well, and Josh, this goes back to something we almost should have saw the writing on the wall for this. I mean, these two things kind of happen simultaneously, but when everybody got in, and by everybody I mean me, on the Trey Benson returning hype, you pointed out how tough this schedule was for running backs. And while Bam Knight has been hit or miss, not to take away,
he's had one hit. Let's be real.
But the Cardinals have largely not been able to run the ball, and that has led to this success for Jacoby Brissett. I'm loving every bit of it. I love Jacoby Brissett. And out of this, Josh, I don't think you can drop Zach Charbonnet right now. Certainly, he broke off another nice run this week. Not that the Seahawks can run the ball for shit anyway. I would probably go ahead and drop Jaden Higgins.
Yeah, I love Jaden Higgins, but this really boils down to if you don't foresee a point where you need to start Jaden Higgins, I am perfectly fine dropping him for Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, absolutely. And then he's on the tight end. Would we drop Waller for Pitts? I mean, sure. Pitts is succeeding in matchups where tight ends are supposed to succeed is the thing.
But also Drake London being out, right? Yeah. That plays into it because
point.
Now he bumps up to the second target in that offense. When Drake London is there, we're not seeing this level of Kyle Pitts.
Yep. Yeah, so
I'm fine holding on to Waller, especially if there's further complications or issues with Devon Achane.
That part.
Which, again, we'll talk about a little bit later in the injury section.
Keenan, good morning. Appreciates the advice. We've been all on Christian Watson, Josh. Started him over Sutton. Helped Keenan get back to top scorer this week. Congratulations.
There you go, baby.
Keenan drops in a question. Does Daniel Jones being out impact JT's fantasy production, or do we expect him to get a bigger workload? Josh, I think the workload is there. Mm-hmm. The issue is, and I do think Riley Leonard is better than Max Brosmer. Let me be very clear. The issue is, and we saw it this week, JT is now facing 7 and 8 in the box on every play. The efficiency is going to die for Jonathan Taylor.
So this is what I'm going to be really interested in, because I do think that from a play caller and a offensive schematic standpoint, Shane Steichen's one of the best in the NFL. This was a guy that basically took Jalen Hurts and made Jalen Hurts into who we know. Like, he leaned heavily into the RPOs, letting the quarterback run the football. This is what Riley Leonard does. Okay. If you look back at the Notre Dame tape, he is a runner much more so than he is a passer.
Yeah.
With a full week of practice, with a rest of season going forward, Shane Steichen can say, you know what? we're going to be a running football team. And you start getting into these 21 personnel type setups where you've got 2 backs in the backfield. You're running this modified version of a wing T offense kind of thing. This is something that Shane Steichen can and will do.
Yeah.
It just boils down to, if you see a Minnesota versus Seattle game and that defense just reads it perfectly and they jump out 26-0, then JT's value is going to crater because you just have to stop him, and that's it. And you can't throw to keep up, or you have to throw to keep up at that point. And they're not using JT in the passing game. That's been the biggest. I don't know why they don't do that for starters. He is a talented pass catcher.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where I still think he's a top 5 back.
Absolutely.
I'm not willing to go so far as to crater him in my rankings the way that I would a Justin Jefferson. But if you told me that you're going to get some RB2 level weeks, I'm not going to be surprised.
I also think there's a chance, because they're going to have to install a new offense.
Yeah.
There's a chance he does get involved in the passing game. You have to keep things simple for Riley Leonard, which kind of brings us to the next part of Keenan's question. But first, I'll throw Caesar up. What a turn of events for the Colts. Ain't that the damn truth? You were competing for the division lead. Now you're competing for your life all of a sudden. But Keenan says, do we think there's a chance they pick someone up this late in the season, Josh? That feels impossible to me. You might be able to answer this better than me. Is there someone out there who is familiar with Shane Steichen's offense that's not currently on a roster, that's on a practice squad? Any of your former Eagles quarterbacks is kind of what I'm thinking.
I'm trying to remember who all the backups. I mean, we had Marcus Mariota for a year. He's in Washington.
You got no access to him. So,
who was the early backup? I don't even remember.
Yeah.
No, I honestly, I don't think so. I mean, look, they're going to make a move, obviously, because Anthony
they have
Richardson
to bring someone
is still on IR.
But they have
I don't even know who's on the
Rippon's on their practice squad.
Rippon? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
Practice squads, this is going to be Riley Leonard's team.
I think it's going to be Leonard's. You've hung with this guy for 6 weeks. He's been on your for 14 weeks. He's been on your active roster for the last 6 or 7 weeks because of the freak Anthony Richardson injury. Mm-hmm. I guess my one question is there any chance? I don't know how long you have to be out for a broken orbital bone. Still one of the weirdest pregame injuries I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, apparently there's reports that basically you're saying his face is fucked.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of getting.
I've been seeing people sharing memes of Two-Face in the Dark Knight rolling over and I'm just from a pregame injury, what did he do? Run into a wall with a spike? I don't get it.
Did you not see what happened?
No, I didn't.
Oh, another player ran into him. He was doing his drills and someone was doing a stretching drill and they cracked skulls. It was one of the craziest things I've ever seen. It was terrible. So,
I mean, there's a couple of suggestions in the chat. Joe mentions Foles. George mentions Ritter. I could see Ritter. Foles is retired, guys. That's not happening. And Foles wasn't there with Steichen. Let's be perfectly honest here. So, Desmond Ritter's bounced around. I think if the Colts were to go get him, this would be his 4th team this season already. I mean, he played at Cincinnati in college. I mean, sure, but let's be honest.
I think it's Riley Leonard.
It's Leonard's team. There's no
draft pick on him. It's not like he was a UDFA. So I think it's Riley Leonard. To be honest, Riley Leonard was a quarterback I did not mind through the draft process.
It's just not a great thrower of the football. That's the problem.
But in Shane Steichen's offense, that can also work.
And that's why I say, I think you're going to see a lot of RPO heavy offenses or play calls. You're going to see a lot of, naked boots, things that are going to get him out in space, quick reads, quick throws. This is going to benefit Tyler Warren and Josh Downs. I will tell you that right now.
Yep. I am going to put the comments on hold. A lot of these are now questions about what happened in the week instead of just kind of the other stuff. We're going to move on with the show just a little bit, and that starts with my score recap and man of the hour. Going back to Thursday, great Thursday game. Not so much if you're a Cowboys fan. Great if you're an Eagles fan, right, Josh? Lions 44, Cowboys 30, and that was also a loss of CeeDee Lamb. We'll talk a little bit more about that through the chat. Titans 31, Browns 29. Interesting game. Seahawks just continue to beat teams down. This team is legit. 37-9. They beat the Falcons on the road wild season for the Seattle Seahawks. Jaguars 36, Colts 19, as we mentioned. Vikings respond from their own shutout to shut out the Commanders 31-0. Not a great week for Washington. More on that just a little bit later. Bills and Bengals gave us the game of Sunday, 39-34. Just an amazing game to watch. Joe Burrow kind of fell apart at the end of that one. Saints 24, Buccaneers 20, Steelers 27, Ravens 22, Dolphins 34, Jets 10, Broncos 24, Raiders 17, a little bit closer than what we thought. What wasn't closer? The Los Angeles Rams 45, the Cardinals 17. Packers and Bears was a fun one, 28-21. Sunday Night Football, the Chiefs, I'm pretty sure their playoff hopes are completely dead at this point when you lose to the Texans at home.
They have the same record as the Miami Dolphins, and we're talking about firing Mike McDaniel. I just want to put that out there, people.
That's fair. 20-10, Texans take that one. A very boring Sunday night game, and everything wraps up with a very interesting Monday night game. Eagles at Chargers tonight, where we find out who Justin Herbert really is. And Josh, that brings us in to the man of the hour. And we don't normally pick players from losing teams, but it's late in the season, and we've talked about all the guys who kind of had good games yesterday. So it was my turn to pick, and I had to go with Shedeur Sanders. I'm born and raised in Northeast Ohio. I have routinely been a Shedeur Sanders defender, mainly because I think he gets too much hate. I'm not saying he's done a lot to earn respect, and I can't see the chat. I'm sure I'm about to get burned in the chat because I know some of our chat hates Shedeur Sanders. But Josh, this whole thing started for me on our DFS show. He was so cheap this week in DFS. And me and Austin had a discussion, and we actually disagreed. We both liked him as an interesting play. I thought he was more of a cash play because he's a starting quarterback that was way too cheap. Austin thought he was more of a GPP play. I didn't see the ceiling. Turns out we were both right. 364 yards, 3 touchdown passes, another 29 rushing, and a rushing touchdown. I can't verify this statistic, but a lot of my Cleveland friends have shared this. Apparently, he is the first player to have a 350-yard and 4 touchdown game in his first 5 starts. I can't verify that. I'm sure someone in the chat can tell me if I'm wrong, but that's a stat I've seen thrown around. But Josh, what I really wanted to dig into, it was a good game for Sanders. They lost. A lot of Browns bonehead coaching. But I looked at Browns QB attempts this season. Shout out to Football Guys who let you actually see stats from players who played for that team for the amount of games they played for that team. Joe Flacco, 160 pass attempts this season. Dylan Gabriel, 185 pass attempts this season. Shedeur Sanders, 103 pass attempts this season. Flacco has 800 yards. Gabriel has 937. Sanders has 769. But keep in mind, Sanders has far fewer attempts. Flacco only threw 2 touchdowns as the Browns starting quarterback. Dylan Gabriel threw 7. Shedeur Sanders already has 5 plus a rushing attempt. He is at 7.5 yards per attempt, while both of the other quarterbacks were at 5.1. This is a different offense with Shedeur Sanders. He also has 63 fantasy points, while Flacco only had 38. Almost double the attempts. Well, no, I'm sorry, 50% more attempts for Flacco, 25 fewer fantasy points. He's only 16 points behind Dylan Gabriel, who almost has double the attempts. But Josh, this was an interesting one to me. So I sorted all quarterbacks this season by attempts to see who I can compare him to. And interestingly enough, the closest quarterback to Shedeur Sanders is Joe Burrow. Burrow only has 3 more fantasy points than Shedeur Sanders on 18 more attempts. Overall, the Browns are fucking dumb. I don't understand starting Dylan Gabriel. But I read a stat, and I think they brought this up on one of our shows once. And I got some eye rolls and some shit in the chat, because like I said, I know our chat doesn't care for him. That the Browns were looking at this as a redshirt year for Shedeur Sanders. I don't know why. But Josh, I think this was the plan. I think the Browns, and I know this is going to sound stupid, but I'm telling you, I think the Browns knew Shedeur Sanders was the best quarterback on their roster. They wanted to see what they had from the other 2 guys, and they didn't care about losing because they just wanted to increase draft stock. And I know you gave me some shit on that last time because, like, how much can they increase their draft stock? Everything I am seeing from this kid, Josh, I like. He made some throws yesterday that I haven't seen a Browns quarterback make in years. He made some gutsy plays. He doesn't have the strongest arm, and we said this coming out of the draft. He is hyper fucking accurate. The touchdown pass he threw to David Njoku, very few quarterbacks in the NFL could have thrown that.
Well, and even the pass to Jerry Jeudy, like, he just dropped that right in the bucket. Like, it was on point. It was down the seam. And then Judy used the speed and got behind the defense. I was so waiting for him to fumble that football when he flipped into the end zone, because that would have been just an exclamation point on this Brown season. But I digress. Anyway, no, like I've never had an overall issue with Shedeur. I think the media got caught up in the swagger.
Yep.
And I think because of that, teams were turned off by it, because the perception is you were bigger than the team, right?
I also
think that's always the perception, especially, and I hate to bring race into this, especially with young black quarterbacks.
100%.
And
you know,
don't want that. They want team first, and I get that wholeheartedly. That's how it should be. But I think what people don't want to understand or don't want to look at, when you look at him at Colorado, he was all about his teammates.
Yep.
He was the one that was always hyping up Travis Hunter. He was the one that was always hyping up his wide receiver room. He was the one that took care of his offensive linemen, even though they couldn't fucking block for him to save their life.
Yep.
And the whole thing is that people felt that he thought in his head that he was more of a playmaker than what he actually was, which is why he holds on to the ball too long. Oh, I can outrun so-and-so, and I can make this play. I can throw it down to this person, whatever. And that's not the case, because he's not as athletic as his dad. And that's the other side of it. He can do certain things, but if he works within Stefanski's offense, because Stefanski's offense is very simple. It's run the ball and be efficient with your passes. Like he does not want this offense to be a 40 pass attempt offense.
Exactly.
He wants it within 28 to 32. That's where it should be. That's why at the beginning of the season, I said, having Joe Flacco on this team makes no fucking sense at all, because Joe Flacco was a gunslinger
the whole time. Exactly.
And like Sanders is not doing that. Like he's averaging about, I think, 30 or so attempts per game, if I'm not mistaken.
He has four games played.
He started 4 games, right? Or 3?
I think he only started 3. I think he has 4 played, started 3, and he's had 103 attempts. So 33 at most, 34.
Yeah, 30. Okay, so that's still kind of within the realm of where Stefanski wants to be.
Yeah.
But this offensive line isn't a great run blocking line right now. So Quinshon Judkins isn't getting the holes that he should be getting. And, but again, if he's efficient, you get Shedeur Sanders a legitimate wide receiver 1 and working within this offense, you can see peak Amari Cooper in this offense. And that was a good for fantasy wide receiver.
And I think there's something to consider here. Again, I know we're glazing this kid after 3 games and we're retiring his number like Colorado did.
No, I'm not going that far.
We're not. I want to be very clear. But I do think there's something, Josh. While some older NFL veterans may not like him and his swag, these college kids coming up would have loved to play with Shedeur Sanders.
And they want to play with him.
Exactly.
That's why Colorado got so many transfers. And why do you think they didn't this year? Shedeur's not there, and they only won 3 games.
I think it's also played into why Isaiah Bond, not that the Browns didn't give him way too big of a contract, but why Isaiah Bond was willing to go there immediately. Yep. And so I think there's a lot to it. I do want to throw Chris's last 2 comments up on the screen because I think he's 100% right here. He said Shedeur should have earned his job in 2025. I agree, and Chris goes into this later, but again, I think he probably did. But I like what you said here, Chris, is spend their first round picks to build around him. But then Chris ends it with the most important point here. He can't wait to see how the Browns screw this up. Oh, I see what Chris is saying. Okay, I didn't understand. He means Shedeur needs to earn it in 2026, which brings up a whole nother thing because Deshaun Watson's back, and what does that mean? But this I loved. He said, I'm giving the Browns way too much credit here. They also took Dylan Gabriel first day, our first pick of day 2, when he was projected as a day 3. That is the thing, Josh, is the Browns continually fuck these things up, and I don't know what's going to happen with this one.
I still believe that the whole point of the draft slide and the Browns sort of, bypassing Shedeur and all this kind of crap, it was meant to humble him.
Yeah.
Straight up. And I think that it's a shitty way of looking at it, but these teams are all run by old ass white men that don't want to see black kids come up. Like, it is what it is.
I was going to say, I've been saying it for years. You know how I feel about how they treat black coaches in the NFL. I've been saying this shit for years. And I know some people aren't going to like it in the comments. Take a look in the mirror. I'm just saying.
It is what it is.
But I do want to say this too, Josh. And we brought this up during the draft, and I think there was some legitimate concern here. For coaches that had a say, was a legitimate worry that Dion was also coming for your job if you took Shedeur. And that I can read into. Again, I like this kid. I hope it plays out. I know we've already spent more time than anyone thought we were going to on Shedeur Sanders, but you cannot deny.
Charlene says it best. Browns are going to Brown.
Browns going Brown. That's the absolute fucking truth there. Josh, chat is popping. Thank you guys for listening to our diatribe on one Shedeur Sanders. Let's get back to the chat. Keenan, $2 a fab left. What a point in the season. He has Lamb and Ertz on roster. You don't have Ertz anymore. Potential replacements would be Deshaun Watson.
Oh, no, that would be Christian Watson.
Too much Browns talk. Christian Watson, Chris Godwin, Cortland Sutton. He also has Waller as a replacement for Ertz. Josh, correct me if I'm wrong here, because I'm seeing a lot about Ryan Flournoy. It's a concussion for Lamb, right?
Correct.
Okay. I'm just like, I want to make sure I didn't miss something here. And I'm not poo-pooing that and saying he couldn't miss this week. He absolutely could. But I just want to make sure I'm not as concerned about Lamb as others might be. But Josh, I spent a lot of time on this. He needs to put all $2 on Watson and pray for the best, right?
Well, no, he has Watson. He has Watson, Godwin, and Sutton on his roster. The next part of the question is, would you put the remaining fab to pick up Fannin to replace Waller or split up the bid so you can grab Flournoy? Well, I think you're covered at wide receiver with Christian Watson, Chris Godwin. Here's the thing. Flournoy without CeeDee Lamb, he ain't shit. Like he is the direct replacement to CeeDee Lamb in this offense. But even then, all that's going to do is it's going to just move up George Pickens. Like,
yeah, we saw it already.
We've seen it already if Lamb misses any time. So Flournoy will have a good game here and there if Lamb is out. You have enough at wide receiver that you don't need to do that. Go get Fannin. Him and Shedeur clicked. They're working.
Yep.
And now David Njoku's dealing with an injury after catching that touchdown. Beautiful touchdown catch, by the way.
I watched that play 4 different times. I can't see when he got hurt on that play. I'm guessing
and I think they called it a knee injury, which I thought was
I'm guessing it maybe
shoulder would have made more sense to me because it was cold, hard ground, etc. But
that one was weird. KJ Frederick also asks, do we think he'll clear concussion protocol? I think 10 days helps.
Yeah.
But I will say every non-quarterback, and I know this is weird, every non-quarterback who has went into concussion protocol has missed the following game. For some reason, we've seen quarterbacks come back the following game, but every non has missed the following game.
Now, again, none of them had 10 days of rest.
None of them had 10 days of rest. Yeah, I do not recall a Thursday concussion off the top of my head.
That's and this is really what it boils down to. Everybody reacts differently to concussions.
Yep.
I mean, look, T. Higgins coming off of a concussion hit his head hard in Buffalo.
And then somehow doesn't go back.
And somehow cleared protocol, came back and caught a touchdown late in the game. Like, I mean, everybody reacts differently.
So. Well, and the thing about protocol is they have to go, if I remember correctly, 3 consecutive practices without symptoms to clear the protocol. Yep. So the good news is he gets the extra practices, assuming that they did simulated practices on Saturday. So which tight end do we prefer for week 15? Fannin at Chicago, likely at Cincinnati. How much of a factor is weather going to be? Josh, I don't worry so much about weather for tight ends because they end up being the safety blanket. You obviously have to worry that you're going to end up in a terrible weather game, and that's much more likely in Chicago than it is in Cincinnati. The fact of the matter is this, though. Likely's look good. Fannon's look great. I'm going Harold Fannin.
Yeah, I mean, likely is being boosted up by the fact that every tight end treats Cincinnati like they're bitch. Let's be honest. 3 tight ends dominated them on Sunday.
Yeah.
I'm not shying away from Harold Fannin right now.
Yep, like I said, and you do have a chance at worse weather in Chicago, but I'm still going with Harold Fannin.
Plus, how do you trust Lamar right now?
You don't. Plain and simple. Shout out to our host, Gator J. In the process of moving, no internet, still in the chat, not able to join the show. That's all right, buddy. We miss you. Buddy. George didn't think his playoff hopes would be squandered by Tony Pollard and Harold Fannin. I would like to say I was in on Harold Fannin, but Josh, you said this in the chat immediately. What the fuck is happening with Tony Pollard? Did the Browns forget they were playing the worst offense in football?
Yeah, literally his best game of the season. No idea where that came from. None
and everyone's going to jump on it this week and be
so disappointed. And you're going to be so disappointed when he puts up 5 points.
Do not forget, you do not get credit for last week's points.
Yep.
Just saying that.
Yep.
George said Emeka Ibuka is unstartable. He didn't make the show sheet, or he made the show sheet in the disappointment, but he didn't make the one we're going to talk about. But man, Josh, we've been on this one for about 4 weeks now, and it's certainly time to get off that train.
And that's the thing is like the targets are there. Like he had 8 targets this game and only caught 2 of them for 15 yards.
Also had a drop on a touchdown. Just saying. So.
Like I don't know. I saw a comment from somebody, and they were talking about how Ibuka's season this year is very reminiscent of Mike Evans in his second season.
Yes,
when he had Vincent Jackson and there was another wide receiver there that I can't remember, but like they missed a significant amount of time that year, and as a result, like he naturally struggled because now defenses are all focusing on him, and he's got to go and figure out how to be that true number one guy. Everything popped for Ibuka early.
Yep.
And now defenses are focusing on him, and he's got to figure out, okay, how do I get by all this coverage?
Didn't he only play like 3 games as a senior as well? Wasn't that like a big storyline last year or junior, whatever, when he came out? Did he not play the full season last year? For some reason,
you're thinking of
the year
JSN.
before.
Oh, thinking of JSN, yeah. So JSN had the big breakout, and then the year before he got drafted, he literally played like 1 game.
Okay, got my Ohio State receivers confused. I was just wondering if this is a rookie wall situation as well. We haven't really talked about the rookie wall a lot in the NFL lately, but it still could be a thing that exists. So Quincy 13-0, shut the hell up. CMC and Travion on bye. Rashid Rice and Ibuka kills him. He's up 113-91. The other guy has McConkey and Gadsden and the Chargers defense. Good Lord. That guy is all in on the Chargers.
So 22 fantasy points between them.
I think Gadsden's trash. I think the Chargers defense is a mistake. It's all about whether McConkey can have a great game, and I don't think he's going to have that great of a game. I think
especially with, well, let's face it. If Herbert doesn't play, McConkey's not doing great.
Yep.
I think even if Herbert plays, I don't know that he really gets much over 200 yards passing, which I think McConkey's going to need, 6 for 90 and a touchdown. I don't think he gets that. Not against that secondary.
Millie get the opposite of a Sunday miracle. Millie puts up 140, but his opponent had Michael Wilson, Josh Jacobs, Blake Corum, and RJ Harvey just to shut that shit down. I hate when you have games like that, when you do your damnedest. George brings up T. Higgins. I won't say he's insane when Burrow plays. He's insane when the other team is solely focused on shutting down Jamar Chase, which is what the Bills did in this game. So.
But he also adds, he performs like a 1 when healthy. Exactly. When is he healthy?
Yeah. But Chris
he's always missing time for something.
Chris brings up how do I feel about that T. Higgins game? Chris beat my ass in a dynasty league. Things did not go well. That was also the league, if I remember correctly, where I got cute and took out Jacoby Brissett for Jaden Daniels. So that's gonna,
See, I put in Jaden Daniels over like Tyler Shuck. And we talked about that on Saturday, Joe and I. Like, I was not ready to take like a bona fide like top 12 guy out of the lineup for Jaden Daniels. Like, I'm going to ride with the guy that's kept me afloat. But those fringe guys like Tyrod Taylor, Tyler Shuck, I was fine going Daniels over them. Almost cost me in my auction league because I did start Daniels over Shuck, but I had Michael Wilson, so I felt a little bad about it.
No, I think it was because I knew I wasn't going to improve much. I'm making the playoffs. I just wanted to see. I looked at his numbers.
And to feel something starting Jaden Daniels.
Exactly. Still a ton of you waiting in the chat. We will get back to you. Let's progress the show a little bit. We call it the unnecessary shot of Ruppelments. These are the injuries coming out of week 14. Daniel Jones, torn Achilles. He's done. Geno Smith, shoulder injury. He's done. No, I'm joking. Probably though. Zach Ertz, believed to have a torn ACL, done for the season, but probably done for his career as well. I felt so bad. He was so upset. Jaden Daniels, left elbow injury. More on that later, but Dan Quinn did say he could have probably come back into the game. He was held out for precautionary reasons, like he should have been all along. Devon Achane, rib injury. Mike McDaniel said the same. He could have returned if he needed to. They held him out precautionary. And then Tyrod Taylor goes down with a groin injury. Brady Cook comes into that game.
That absolutely sunk all of the, hey, feel free to start AD Mitchell start sit questions. Oh,
yeah. Josh, obviously, fantasy wise, Devon Achane could have been the biggest story out of this. And I do want to ask you, looking at that game, Josh, Jalen Wright gets the first kind of touchdown, and this was before Achane was hurt. Ollie Gordon gets the second touchdown, and this was after Achane was hurt. If you were looking to cuff, are you going to Ollie Gordon, who had kind of been it for the season? Jalen Wright comes out of this game with 24 carries. It seems like he's the better option now, even though it was Gordon for most of the season.
So my head tells me that Jalen Wright, because he hasn't played much this season, is the direct backup to Devon Achane. That's kind of what my head tells me. And because, we've seen it with, we'll take the Buffalo Bills, for instance. Like, they use Ty Johnson in that, secondary role. But when James Cook goes down, it's Ray Davis that comes in and takes over that role. I think that's kind of the situation here with Jalen Wright, is that, he's the faster, the shiftier version. Ollie Gordon being the bigger, the thumper, more of a complementary back to a smaller, more agile running back. That's kind of where my head is. So if you are at all worried about Devon Achane, I think Jalen Wright is probably your target here. Now, I understand, Wright coming and scoring the touchdown beforehand, but let's be honest here. This is the Jets. Their offense sucks.
Yeah, I think the Dolphins probably knew they were going to use multiple running backs in this game.
Yeah. And again, I mean, it's up north. It's cold. You want to run the football.
And I will just remind anybody, if you need to know how good Devon Achane is, go watch his run from the first quarter that got stopped on the 2-yard line. If he had scored a touchdown on that run, you would know the play I'm talking about by heart. Devon Achane is so fucking good.
He is the reincarnation of Chris Johnson.
He really is. He is
so
very good. But then, Josh, I think the one that truly matters for fantasy at this point is Daniel Jones. What I will say is, as we've already alluded to, you're not benching Jonathan Taylor because of this.
Yeah.
What I find interesting is Michael Pittman has not been much of a contributor lately, so you've probably been surviving without him. But I think the two players we need to talk about, Josh, are Pittman and Tyler Warren.
Yeah, and I'll bring this up from Alpocalypse because it ties right into this. Would you go Tyler Warren or Darren Waller rest of season?
I'm still going to go Tyler Warren because I think they're going to get creative and get their superstars involved. Darren Waller is who Darren Waller is. We got those big games from him early on, but the fact of the matter is this: the Dolphins suck in cold weather, and they're about to be dealing with it quite a bit. So,
yeah, I'm in agreement here. I think it's Tyler Warren. I'm not pivoting off of him just because Daniel Jones isn't there. I mentioned before, I think Shane Steichen's going to go a very run-heavy offense because that's how you protect a young rookie quarterback, especially a 6th-round rookie quarterback who, quite frankly, should not be starting, period, in his rookie season. But one that is athletic enough that, whose college profile was, I'm a really good runner. That's how I'm making my name in this league. So we've seen Tyler Warren take snaps in the backfield. We've seen him line up in the backfield. Yep. They use him all over this formation. So I'm not worried much at all when it comes to Tyler Warren. Is the volume going to be there? Maybe not. And I think that's the maybe biggest deterrent here, is that you're not going to see 7, 8, 9 targets to Tyler Warren, because I just don't think that this offense is going to throw that much. But if they take a shot downfield, it's probably going to be Alec Pierce. If, your underneath stuff is probably going to be all Josh Downs and Tyler Warren.
Yeah.
Maybe you make a few targets here to Michael Pittman, but as you alluded to, Michael Pittman really hasn't been much outside of a touchdown catch here or there. So really, I think you kind of downgrade Michael Pittman into that top 36 range. And if he catches a touchdown, you've got a wide receiver too. But otherwise, you're looking at a top 40 guy. Josh Downs is going to get a lot of those quick underneath stuff. And then I think he becomes more of a volume guy that gets you the, 5 for 50, the occasional touchdown if they can move the ball downfield.
Yeah. Someone in the chat just now, I was doing research when they brought this up. Keenan says, didn't the Colts have terrible QB play last year to end the season and JT lit it up in the fantasy playoffs? And he is absolutely right. I went and looked at the Colts quarterbacks for the last 4 weeks of last season. Anthony Richardson twice, Joe Flacco twice. In those games, Flacco had 2 good games, 330 yards, 264 yards, 2 touchdowns in each of the, or 2 touchdown and 1, 2 touchdowns in the other. Anthony Richardson didn't have terrible games. 131 rushing touchdown in each one of those games, but definitely turned the ball over. Meanwhile, Jonathan Taylor in those same games just absolutely cooked and was averaging like 20 points a game. So there is a lot of hope because it's the same system, Josh, that Jonathan Taylor's fine. Exactly what you said. Top 5 guy. We're not calling him an RB2 all of a sudden, but we got to also be worried about stack box.
Yeah, and to me, that's the difference when you look at someone like a Jonathan Taylor versus a Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson, they're not manufacturing touches for him. They're not handing him the football off. They are relying on the quarterback to get him the football.
Absolutely.
As a running back, you're at the focal point of the offense.
Yeah.
There's guaranteed volume baked in. That's why in a lot of our start-sit questions, a lot of it boils down to, well, the floor is the volume guy. That's the running back.
Yeah. And we had some questions in the chat. I'll get to them in a moment. Is Jaden Daniels droppable? Yes, very, very much so. If we're not talking keeper or dynasty leagues, Jaden Daniels is droppable. Matty Randoms, good morning, my friend. Who's going to score more fantasy points tonight? Hampton or Quentin Johnston? The team with Hampton wins, I'm in the playoffs. If Johnston wins, I'm out of the playoffs. I personally think it's Hampton, Josh. I think Quentin Johnston is going to face those Eagles corners on the outside and do nothing tonight. So.
Yeah, this is, I'm telling you, I said it on our Start Sit show. This matchup is primed for Omari and Hampton to absolutely eat. When Jalen Carter does not play, this Eagles defense struggles against the run. They've played 2 games already this season without Jalen Carter. Week 1 against Dallas and week 6 against the Giants. They gave up 5 total rushing touchdowns, 3 to Scatterbo, 2 to Javonte Williams. I understand that Omari and Hampton is likely going to get eased back in. Kamani Vidal is still going to get some carries. But Hampton is the hammer.
Yep.
He's the guy that's going to score touchdowns for this team. So Hampton wins out.
Perfectly leads us to this question. Quincy has another team where he's in the playoffs, or he needs to win to get in the playoffs. He is up currently 18 points. He has Vidal. Other guy has Gadsden and Dick.
Oh, you're good.
You're so good. We are very anti-Gadsden tonight, and more on that just a
Philly shuts down tight ends.
Yep.
They might give up like a random touchdown here or there, but they still have a decent enough pass rush even without Jalen Carter to get after whoever ends up at quarterback for the Chargers. And that ultimately is, I think, going to really limit Gadsden because they're going to run a lot of 11 personnel. They need a tight end to help.
We've talked about this for a while. Yep. Matty Randoms, yes, Jaden Daniels is droppable. Don't just drop him for nobody. I mean, I guess you can just drop him for nobody. Like, yes, he's droppable, plain and simple. You're not. When are you going to put him back on the field in the fantasy playoffs? The answer is you are not.
I'm not, because you're going to lose.
Yeah. Keenan, is it time to consider starting Corum over Kieran? I think this might be the best question we get all show, Josh. I don't want people to forget you have Kieran Williams coming off of an injury and another blowout win. Kieran Williams is still the best running back there. Blake Corum looks good. Don't take this game as Blake Corum taking over this job. If I have both, I'm still playing Kieran every single time.
Yeah, Keenan and I talked about this a little bit in Discord last night. Here's the thing. When you look at the second Blake Corum touchdown run, they were already up 4 scores, whatever it was. So, like, that's why he was getting carries at the end of the game. It was simply because why are we putting our starting running back at risk? Sean McVay and the team have already been on record. We want to keep Kieran Williams fresh for the playoffs. This is a team right now that is arguably the best team in the NFL, let alone the best team in the NFC. And I say that knowing that my Eagles already beat them once this year. But tides change. It is what it is. Call a spade a spade. This defense is good. This offense is clicking on all cylinders, running and passing. They can beat you in so many different ways. So, yeah, like, it makes sense for right now, the last, 3-4 weeks of the season. Let Corum get some run.
Absolutely.
Keep Kieran fresh. Heading into this season, over the last 2 years, he scored 31 touchdowns. And they said, you know what? You are still a viable part of our this season and the future, and gave him a 3-year contract, even after drafting Blake Corum, who, quite frankly, does a lot of the same things that Kieran Williams does.
We said that when it started, that this is a clone situation.
They're clones. You're not missing a beat when you take Kieran Williams off the field and putting Blake Corum on it. And I said it during our Start Sit show. Blake Corum is the handcuff of handcuffs right now, because God forbid if something tragic happens to Kieran Williams, you have a top 5 running back in Blake Corum. But there's an opportunity to where Sure, you can start Corum independently of Kieran Williams. He's just a more juiced up version of Tyler Algier because he's in a better offense. Yeah. But that also lends itself to a super low floor.
And that's my biggest concern here is I feel like Kieran's floor is super safe as long as he's healthy, whereas Corum's floor is legitimately 2 or 3 fantasy points. Mm-hmm. So, Third Eye, welcome back to the show. Which one wide receiver would we add for the playoffs? Jaden Reed, Wan'Dale Robinson, Jacoby Myers, Jawan Jennings, or Jerry Jeudy? It's not Jerry Jeudy.
It's never Jerry Jeudy.
Josh, I would normally, it's full PPR. To me, this comes down to Myers or Wan'Dale Robinson. Because it is full PPR, I'm going to lean Wan'Dale, but I love what I am seeing from Jacoby Myers.
Yeah, kind of more interested in Myers only because I don't love Wan'Dale's schedule the rest of the season.
That's very fair. I didn't even look at schedule for this one. So,
and right now I just, as much as I love Jackson Dart, and I can't believe I'm saying this, I trust the Jaguars offense more. But more importantly, I trust Jacoby Myers in that Jaguars offense.
What's crazy is the Trevor Lawrence and Jacoby Brissett might be the safest 2 quarterbacks in football right now. Matt Stafford belongs in that conversation, but it's just those 2 quarterbacks have just consistently done what they've done. Brissett obviously doing it better.
Yep.
Joseph, how confident are we Hurts and Ladd combined for 34 points tonight? In regular fantasy scoring, 0, maybe 1% confident. I don't see this happening, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I think Hurts can probably get you 20 to 25. Especially if he gets you a rushing touchdown.
That's what you need. You need 60 and a rushing touchdown out of him tonight for that.
I don't know that you get 60, but I definitely think you can get 25 to 35 rushing. So I think at that point you have a 9-point floor from rushing. After that, passing 200, maybe 2 touchdowns, 225. So what's that? 8, 9, 14, 20,
11. 9 from rushing. You're looking at that 20 plus the touchdowns. Yeah, he could legitimately.
I mean, he could legitimately get all of that. But
yeah,
again, like this Chargers defense is good. Like they're not bad by any means.
The best news you have is that the Eagles need a win tonight, so they're going to come out firing.
And take it with a grain of salt. But the reports have been coming out that Sirianni has been more involved in the offensive meetings this week, and I mean, look, maybe that's a good thing. I saw the first 9 games of Sirianni calling plays and they fucking sucked. So maybe it's good. Maybe it's not. What I do know is it's a fresh voice in the offensive meetings. Maybe that's what we need. So
it probably brings some calm to the mind of like AJ Brown, who has just been pissed about what's going on with Patullo, to where if even just calming him down probably brings some rhythm to this offense.
Correct. So. Yeah. I mean, I think Ladd's ceiling is probably 12, unless he's somehow able to find the end zone, which again, going against Cooper DeJean in the slot, Quinion Mitchell on the outside, I don't know. And I love Chris's comment.
I was saying Chris is going in on the Eagles. It's 2 weeks in a row.
But you know what? He's not wrong. Like,
he's not.
The Eagles do play good defense, but again, when Jalen Carter's not in there, they will give up points.
Yeah, Chris called this when he said when he found out the Eagles were yet again in prime time for the 55th consecutive game. So Third Eye says, do we see any of these backs taking the majority of carries for the rest of the season? Corum, Chuba Hubbard, Devin Neal, or Kenny Gainwell?
Neal is the only one I would believe in.
When
you're talking majority of team carries,
it's Neal.
It's Neal. 100% is Neal.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Neal a little bit later in the show. We said our piece about Corum. Do not read too much into Chuba Hubbard, but I do think we're probably working back into a timeshare. But the thing is, someone brought this up earlier. I think it was our buddy Millie. They don't run a timeshare in that Carolina offense.
It's just whoever has the hot hand.
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting. Charlene just pouring water on that grave. Lamar Jackson.
Talk more about Lamar later.
Yeah, I was going to say just awful for fantasy as of late. Let's go ahead and take a break, guys. We're still about 15, 20 minutes behind on the chat, but let's go ahead and run a segment. We'll get right back to you folks. And that is where we get into the disappointments, the hangover, the worst plays of week 14. I will give you the dishonorable mentions, and then Josh and I will go in on some players or teams for my case. Bijan Robinson, Ashton Genty, Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker let you down at running back. Jamar Chase had a good week, But T. Higgins had a great week, and I think that makes Jamar a disappointment. Justin Jefferson lets everybody down yet again. Devontae Adams lets everybody down. Rashee Rice, Amika Ibuka is unstartable, as the chat points out. Chris Olave, wish he did not have that back injury. It was a very winnable matchup, and the weather didn't help there. DJ Moore might have been the biggest disappointment. I would have went in on DJ Moore if I didn't have to go in where I needed to go in. And then at tight end, Josh, Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews should have fucking ate this week against that team, but instead they went elsewhere. And Tyler Warren, also affected by the weather. Not a great week. But Josh, I think after Sunday Night Football, you probably have everybody's biggest disappointment based on what he's done for them this season.
Yeah, and that's Patrick Mahomes, much to Gator's chagrin about this being the, quote, Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, to be honest, Gator, we're not going in on the Buccaneers this week. So
we only wait for Gator when he's on the show.
Yeah, we like to make fun of you to your face, buddy. We're not going to do it behind your back.
Anyway, but yeah, no, it's definitely Patrick Mahomes. And look, I get it. The Texans are a top 3 defense, and they're not 3. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Somehow Patrick Mahomes is still quarterback 2 on the season. If you've watched him lately, if you've watched this team lately, does it really feel that way? He had 160 yards passing this week, 3 interceptions, no touchdowns. But he had his 3rd best rushing game this year. And I think that's really been the story of this season. This Kansas City Chiefs rushing attack is bottom 5 in the league. It is god awful. I don't care what the stats say. They're bottom 5, even if they're like middle of the road. They're awful. They're relying on a 31-year-old Kareem Hunt, Pacheco coming off of an ankle injury. Your best running back, honestly, you're not even using. That's Rashard Smith.
Yep.
And for a team that wants to throw the football, Patrick Mahomes is 2nd in the NFL in pass attempts, and you're not even throwing it to your best guy. I don't get it. Regardless, I digress. This is, in a nutshell, just awful to watch. It's not fun. Like, this is not the Kansas City Chiefs that we've been used to seeing. Somehow, when the Eagles blew them out in the Super Bowl, it just became, oh, well, we can figure it out. And they didn't change anything. The only real difference that this team made was they drafted a rookie 1st-round left tackle.
Yeah.
That's it. Everything else has been status quo. And I understand that, they didn't have Rashee Rice for the first part of the season. Xavier Worthy, 2nd year in the NFL, still kind of working some things out. Do you feel, when you watch this team, that they have a legitimate wide receiver 1?
No.
Because I don't. For as good as Rashee Rice is, he is not I'm going to beat you one-on-one type of wide receiver.
Unless you get into a situation where the other team runs a ton of zone defense. Rashee Rice eats against zone defense, but that's not what we saw last night.
And that's the thing, is that they don't have anybody that can win in man coverage or press coverage. Smaller wide receivers, guys that are speed-based, they can't win on the first step. They don't have any legitimate route runners. That is what you need in today's NFL, because so many teams are drafting these wide receivers that they just want to scheme to get open, that they just want to, hey, I'm going to get you the ball in space and let you run around. Well, the problem is that teams are throwing these guys off of their routes.
Yep. Patrick
Mahomes can't get him the ball, so he has to dance and hope that somebody gets open. And for the longest time, that guy was Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce ain't it anymore. This is your 13 for him.
I'm going to quickly throw Keenan up after last night, saying it's time for Kelce to retire. 2 drops and forcing an INT.
Look, we know how much Taylor Swift loves the number 13. This is your 13 for Travis Kelce.
It's a wrap.
It's a wrap.
Like, plus he's getting married after this season. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
He's
like,
done.
Go be with your wife. Like, let's be honest here. Like, you have nothing else to prove.
Nope.
This is a down year, sure. He's still the tight end 2 in fantasy football, mind you. He's had a good season for as disappointing as it's been. And it was the same thing we said last year. So there's just not anything good looking forward for this Chiefs team. And looking beyond 2025, this team is in cap hell.
Yep.
And they only have 6 draft picks. They need to legit, like, this team was built on the fact that they hit on their draft picks. But they don't have any.
Yeah.
They're older. It's time for the reset. And for everybody, it's like, oh, well, it's Patrick Mahomes. He's so good. Why can't he carry a team? Blah, blah, blah. Did you guys forget that Tom Brady went 10 years between Super Bowl wins?
Yeah.
He had the best offense probably in NFL history and still didn't win the Super Bowl. So, like, yes, it sucks that Mahomes probably is going to miss the playoffs this year. I don't think that knocks his legacy any, in my opinion.
Oh, I don't think so at all.
But there's something legitimately that needs to change here. And we saw Andy Reid get run out of Philly because it cratered. It dovetailed quick. Because he wouldn't make the necessary changes.
I was just going to say, the problem is Andy Reid is Andy Reid.
Yeah.
Thick or thin. Yep. Never thin.
And he's never believed in having an elite running game.
Yeah.
They tried to hit this with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. That flopped. Still, I don't know what you're going to do. I don't know that there's a running back coming out outside of Jeremiah Love, and you're not going to be in a position to get him.
Nope.
You could have given a 3rd-round pick to the Jets to get Breece Hall, but you held steadfast on a 4th. Now you're paying the price. You got to do something here because Mahomes is going to be 31 next year. Again, not really old for a quarterback, but when you're having to rely on him so much for his rushing ability, it's going to get old quick.
Well, and I was going to say, I don't want to come across as an asshole. There's no way I can nicely say this. Mahomes isn't taking care of his body the way Tom Brady took care of his body. Nope. So
he's straight up got a dad bod. Let's be honest.
That's what I'm saying. So Mahomes probably has 4 elite years left, and that's if you consider him elite now. Which I mean, I do. I don't want to take away 4 left, and then Father Time is going to kick his ass. I feel like pretty quickly.
Yeah, I would agree.
For me, Josh, I'm going to just go in on Washington because this is something I've been bitching about on this show for weeks now, and we saw it happen. I love being right. I hate being right about this. Jaden Daniels comes back and immediately gets hurt again. Who would have thought that a quarterback who runs a lot, tends to take sacks, and can turn the ball over would end up falling on his left elbow weird? Who would have saw that coming? Did we forget as an organization what happened to RG3? You have to protect these young mobile quarterbacks from themselves. There was no reason to bring Jaden Daniels back. You have 3 wins. 3. What are we risking it for? He has nothing to prove. He proved everything he needed to as a rookie. He is a good quarterback. And I was comparing this situation to the Joe Burrow situation, and the chat was like, these guys are ballers. And Josh, you kind of brought some levity to the situation that the Bengals had something to play for. They don't anymore, but they had something to play for. There was a legitimate chance the Cincinnati Bengals could still make the playoffs in a very bad division. The Commanders were never in that position. They are competing for the first pick. And I would argue, like what we saw with Drake May and like what Chris brought up with Cleveland, tank to put a better player around your franchise quarterback. The Commanders need to surround this guy with stars, and now you're out here trying to win games, which is just going to fuck things up even more. And I'm not saying go out and lose on purpose. I'm just saying don't let Jaden Daniels get hurt in the process. We saw how this can work well with Drake May in New England. They were terrible last year. They're now winning their division. But I also don't want to take all of the blame away from Jaden Daniels here. I think this has now got to raise legitimate concerns for fantasy managers. This skinny kid that all we talked about last year was an injury risk, kind of dodged it as a rookie, and now it's hitting him twofold as in a second-year quarterback. He has trouble staying on the field. It was a concern when he was drafted now, Josh, and I think moving into next year, it's a legitimate concern where fantasy managers may shy away from Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, Adam Peters, their GM, who they got from San Francisco, he decided after last year he was going to go all in, traded a lot of draft picks to bring in veterans, brought in Laramie Tunsil, brought in Deebo Samuel. These are all older veterans.
Yep. Guess
what happens with older veterans? They get hurt. They miss games. They're not as good as they were when they were 26, 27, 28 years old. So, you go all in. Now you're paying the price. And now you don't have the draft picks that you need to go out and actually surround your top tier quarterback with the talent needed for him to continue to get better. This team needs to do exactly what Chicago did. When Ben Johnson came in, they said, we're going to dominate the line of scrimmage.
Yep.
We're going to protect our quarterback from himself. They went out. They traded for Joe Thuney. They brought in Jonah Jackson. They signed center Dahlman, I think his name was, from the Falcons. Darnell Wright is awesome. their tackle. He is so good. That dude's a mauler. They've developed a really good offensive line there. They put him in place. And by all accounts, Caleb Williams has taken a hell of a lot less sacks than he did in last year. Still holds on to the ball a little too long, but that's his natural playmaking ability. That's something that eventually he's going to have to get coached out of, but it's never fully going to go away. And I don't think that's ever going to fully go away with somebody like Jaden Daniels, but you have to do your part as an organization. If you're not doing what you need to, like, and they drafted a left tackle last year, Josh Connerly from Oregon. That's a great first start. Or right tackle, excuse me.
Yeah.
Because you have Laramie Tunsil there. So you've got bookends. But again, Tunsil's no spring chicken. This is what, his third team now, and he's in his 30s? Like, he's only got a few years left. Now you got to build that interior because your interior fucking sucks.
Well, especially
and that's where quarterbacks get pressured the most.
Exactly.
Especially the way that defenses are going out and prioritizing interior pass.
Yeah, because tackles matter for statues. Don't get me wrong. But up the middle for a mobile quarterback who needs to scan and move, those guys are in his face before he knows what to do. So
100%.
And then, like I said, he hasn't thrown a ton of interceptions, but he can turn the ball over, and just that kind of injury, it's my concern. Who else had the elbow injury? It was another quarterback. I cannot think of Baker. Or elbow or shoulder.
Yeah, and that's another team that, I mean, granted, they've made a lot of moves for their offensive line. They've just been hit so hard with injuries this year.
Yeah. All right, let's get back to the chat now that Josh and I have kind of went in on some of our upsetness from week 14. Craig Lennox, hey, buddy. Punctuation kills me. Good to see you sucks. It's not what he's trying to say here. It is good to see you. He said sucks. He's still 15 points behind with only Devonta Smith left tonight. Ashton Genty killed him and Amika. Yeah, Josh.
Don't think you're getting 50 points from Devonta Smith.
I don't think so.
As much as I would love to see that.
Would we drop Brenton Strange for Isaiah Likely? Josh, I'm going to be honest. I'm ignorant of what Isaiah Likely actually did this week.
So he did catch a touchdown and then caught another one that they ended up reversing because they said he didn't complete the catch or whatever. Here's the thing. Brenton Strange, while having a disappointing game, actually scored a touchdown that was called back due to penalty.
Yep.
His day would have been that much better.
And it was a shit penalty call on top of that.
Yeah, and it was a terrible penalty. I think it was on Jacoby Myers, actually.
It was.
They called like a pick play or something.
Yep.
It was fucking dumb. Likely gets Cincinnati this week. So I get why you want to start him. He looks more involved right now. And this feels so weird to say. I trust Trevor Lawrence at quarterback more than I trust Lamar Jackson.
Yep.
I'm sticking with Brenton Strange here.
Yeah.
The matchups are still there.
And it looks like if Lamar's throwing, he's going back to Zay Flowers. I think he made that clear this week. So I'm also sticking with Brenton Strange. Keenan still has Reed on his IR. So he wanted to ask, who should we drop to get him off of IR, Godwin or Sutton?
I would drop Reed.
I'm just going to say, I'm not dropping either one of these guys. I'm dropping Jaden Reed if I have to drop one of those two.
I mean, they schemed him open a couple times. That's cool. And again, I talked about this throughout the offseason, heading into the season, how much I love Jaden Reed. He comes off the field when they run 12 personnel or when they run 21. Anytime they only have two wide receivers on the field, Jaden Reed comes off.
Yeah.
This is the outside options are Christian Watson, Dontavian Wicks. I understand Wicks got shut out this week, and that really sucks, especially coming off the big game. But that's the boomer bust nature of Dontavian Wicks. Right now, Christian Watson is that guy in this passing attack. Everybody else is secondary and tertiary.
Yep.
It is Christian Watson's offense. It is Josh Jacobs' offense, plain and simple.
Shout out to our boy Joel. I feel like Joel was always in that Christian Watson was going to be fine, even with the addition of Matthew Golden.
Yep.
So, Reed 4 targets this week, Godwin 8, Sutton 10. Stick with the volume.
Stick with the volume there. Yeah.
Yep. What do we make of the Pittman outlook? We kind of touched on this a little bit for how would we rank Watson, Pittman, and BTJ moving forward? Josh, Brian Thomas Jr., at least in the first quarter of this game, had a amazing catch. Still did not deliver for fantasy managers, but you're starting to see glimmers of hope that he can get back. But I think Christian Watson is well ahead.
Watson is by and far the one option here. And then it just boils down to do you favor light volume with Pittman or big plays with BTJ? I'm fine chasing the big plays with BTJ because I like that offense better, especially now that the Colts don't have Daniel Jones.
I think it helps that there's no competition for BTJ as that deep threat. Jacoby Myers is playing his role. Tim Patrick comes out of nowhere this week and is basically playing the same role as Jacoby Myers. Yeah. I would probably stick Pittman because I think rookie quarterbacks are going to lean their main guy, but I'm going to call it Watson for sure. Actually, how you have them listed, Watson, Pittman, BTJ, but I see Josh's point. Joseph lost his QB2. Mr. Daniel Jones is Shug, Cam Ward, or Riley Leonard. To me, this is Shug, and it's not even close.
Yep.
Shuck. I'll get it eventually. Shuck, and it's not close. Jalen Wright killed a couple of best ball advances. Yeah, Josh, the problem was with Jalen Wright in best ball, I find it so interesting because he was injured earlier in the season, so everybody jumped on Ollie Gordon. Most people in best ball didn't even get a chance to take advantage of this Jalen Wright thing. So
yeah, that's fair.
He also reminds me that I need to go look at my best ball teams. I have so many drafted. I have no idea where any of them stand. I'm hoping I had to play on DraftKings this year because Underdog wasn't legal in New York when I was drafting. I'm hoping that just one day I wake up and there's $1 million in my account.
Isn't that the dream?
and Club Fantasy becomes a fully funded website. Quincy said the guy he played against, it took me a while to understand what he was asking here, but the long and short of it was the guy Quincy was playing against needed to win to get into the playoffs, and Quincy let him pick his quarterback between Jaden Daniels, Lamar, and Jacoby Brissett, and the guy picked Brissett and basically signed his own.
He told you, start Brissett over these guys. What are we doing?
No. But what's hilarious about this is the other guy picked Brissett. So
there you go. See? That's how you win, baby.
Shout out
the old it's the thing from the league where
you let me
Pete
set your
goes
lineup
through and lets Ruxin, make his matchup and all that. Oh, it's psychological.
And then it's all psychological. Exactly. Yeah. It's actually a callback all the way to Princess Bride, where it's like, I know you want me to do this, so I'm going to do this, but you knew I was going to do that, so I'm going to do this. And you just overthink it. Shout out to Zelda fan, 5 out of 5 redraft teams. I was looking, I play in way too many leagues. But Josh, I think I play in 23 leagues where I set lineups. I'm in the playoffs in 15 of them.
There you go.
Alpocalypse brought up Waller because he gets Cincinnati in week 16, and that is legitimate. I don't remember if this was who
this
we were
was the
Warren
or Darren Waller rest of the season.
I'm still going to stick Warren.
But again, this is why we don't, unless you have one of those top guys, that's why it's not tight end rest of the season. It's stream. It's pick your poison. Everybody has a different matchup. Every defense performs differently against.
Here's what I'll say, Al. If you're off in week 15 and your next game is week 16, absolutely stick with Waller. Like, you're playing him in week 16.
Yep.
Zelda, down 2 with Dicker, and the opponent has Hurts and Brown. Jesus Christ. I'm going to say you're not going 15-0.
Chargers are not shutting out the Eagles. As bad as the Eagles offense has been, they're not shutting out.
You're not winning this one, though. I do love Cameron Dicker. Let's see here, Josh. So if Dicker pulls a Brandon Aubrey, knocks down like 23 points for you, you need them to
25.
You need, still not loving it for you.
Hurts can do that himself. And lately, AJ Brown's been doing that himself.
Yep. Quincy has the bye. Quincy's been asking about this. Has the Cleveland defense and the Houston defense. He needs to drop somebody. He's going to end up having to drop 2 because he's getting Mike Evans and Garrett Wilson back. Josh. So
are you getting Garrett Wilson back?
Yeah, that'll be interesting this week with Brady Cook coming out. Are we really going to get Garrett Wilson back? But Josh, if he has to drop 2, let's rank his droppable assets here. Cleveland defense, Jacoby Myers, DeAndre Swift, and Emeka Egbuka. To me, Josh, it's the defense and Emeka Egbuka. You're not benching
I was
Houston.
Literally just about to say, I don't want to say drop Egbuka, but what the fuck has he done?
It's kind of the thing we were talking about a lot last week. Dropping Egbuka kind of sets a trap for your opponents because everyone's going to go sign him, and then they're getting 6 points out of their wide receiver spot.
Yep.
So.
Exactly.
Chris brings up he's in a bit of a delay with the show right now, but going back to our point about the Chiefs, he thinks there's something to be said about them bringing back Matt Nagy and letting Eric Bieniemy walk.
When Eric Bieniemy was the offensive coordinator, they actually had a running game because he is a former running back coach. Matt Nagy is right off of the Andy Reid tree where running backs don't fucking matter. Their running game is the screen game. Yeah. That's why Andy Reid teams throw the football 600 plus times.
Yeah. Woods girl.
Matt Nagy is god awful. I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
He's awful.
Ask
the only
Bears.
reason he has a job is because of Andy Reid.
Because of Andy Reid. Woods Girl says, please let Mike Evans return. I agree. I said this before, Josh. I was down on the Mike Evans return. This isn't a Baker Mayfield situation. You don't have to protect 32-year-old Mike Evans, or not Baker Mayfield, but
and they're still fighting for a playoff spot.
Exactly.
Like they right now are neck and neck with the Panthers.
Yeah. I know Jay's reiterating that, and then Woods Girl throws out exactly what we said, and this was before we even said it. I can't imagine Garrett Wilson's coming back now.
Nope.
And Keenan jumping in about it's time to put more respect on the Texans. Ain't that the damn truth? Yeah. Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes combined for no touchdowns and 5 picks against that Texans defense. And that goes back to the question about before. You do not need the Browns defense. It does not matter who they're playing. You play the Texans defense right now.
Yeah.
Look at that. Look at us catching up on the chat. Hopefully you guys like what you're hearing. If you do, hit that like button. If you want to hear it again next week, we go live every Monday during the NFL season. Hit that subscribe button. If you happen to be listening on Apple or Spotify, hit that follow button. We get to every chat, but if you want to throw us a couple bucks in super chat, we're certainly not going to be mad about it. If you want to talk fantasy when this show is over, jump into that free Discord. Link in the description of this video. Also in the chat a couple of times for you. We get to our favorite plays of the week, the shot of espresso, the quality performance that got the juices flowing. We got the honorable mentions, Sam Darnold, Aaron Rodgers. Just to be clear, we don't mention the players who were supposed to go off this week, a la Josh Allen and Jahmyr Gibbs. So Sam Darnold, Aaron Rodgers, Tony Pollard, Blake Corum, Michael Wilson, T. Higgins, Christian Watson, Harold Fannin, Mike Gesicki. Those would be the honorable mentions. But Josh, you mentioned right away, when I picked Shedeur Sanders, you thought I was mildly disrespecting our great friend HoofTube and his New Orleans Saints. So you wanted to take those as your players to highlight this week.
Yeah, look, we've given our flower, Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, obviously, a couple times really, especially today being on the thumbnail and everything. Tyler Shuck has had a pretty decent last month of the season, right? And I feel like that so many people, and I'll even throw myself into that, we're stuck on our pre-draft narratives of Tyler Shuck.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is simply he's old.
Yeah.
Like, we're shitting on him because he's older than Zeus, right? Like, he's old for a rookie. He's coming in.
Our good buddy Matt Betts today said he was a 33-year-old rookie or something.
Yeah, right? Like, you're hanging on to the fact that because he's older, how much better is he really going to get? He ran a 4.640 at the combine. He's got wheels. He can run.
Yeah.
And he proved that this week. He scored 2 rushing touchdowns, didn't have a passing touchdown, but he kept the Saints in the game. This is a transitioning team. They're getting away from all the cap mishaps, the old players that they have, especially throughout their defense. And they said, look, we like Tyler Shuck. He's a top 40 guy. They guaranteed him a second-round contract. This quarterback class that's supposedly coming out in 2026 could be good.
Yeah.
But it could also be really bad because all these guys outside of, I think, Mendoza have eligibility and might just say, why am I going to risk going to a bad team and set myself up for failure when NIL is going to pay me $6 million plus next year and I can just get more season, get more experience as a starting quarterback.
Yep.
So I think what the Saints are doing, they're playing to win. All these teams are playing to win. No team is absolutely coming out and saying we're tanking, we're losing, right? But if you're setting yourself up for, we want to see what we have, and Tyler Shuck is coming out and he's throwing the football. He's had his mishaps, sure, just like any rookie will. But he's made some good throws. He's made some good plays. 4 straight games, he's had over a 65% completion percentage.
Yeah.
This was his first, legitimate, in my opinion, fantasy-worthy game. I know he's had a couple where he's, snuck into the back end of the top 12. But this was the first one where it was like, hey, you're doing the damn thing. And again, it's on the legs, 2 rushing touchdowns here. So, you know what? Maybe there's something here. And I'm going to stress maybe because, again, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm a big Tyler Shuck fan the way that Hoove is or the way that some others might be. But I know what Kellen Moore can do as a play caller.
Yeah.
I've seen the good. I've also seen the bad. And I've seen the really bad because he doesn't know how to get off of, damn, I just want to throw the football. I'm a former quarterback. That's how you win, right?
Yeah.
But there's something to, they've got their left tackle in Kelvin Banks.
Absolutely.
Now they've got to build the rest of it. Because they've spent some high draft picks on some offensive linemen that maybe haven't worked out the way that they wanted to, which kind of goes into the next guy, Devin Neal here. We got a ton of questions about Devin Neal going into start sit on Saturday and even last Wednesday on NPI.
Yeah, he was the player of the week.
He was really the player of the week. It was, this is a great matchup. Tampa Bay's run defense is terrible. But again, what has Devin Neal showed you that makes you feel that, yeah, I got to start this guy even in a good matchup? Because again, I mean, he was RB14. There's still Hampton and Vidal and Barkley left to play. Respectable. Like, if you started him in your flex, I think you're fine. But 19 carries, less than 4 yards a carry.
Yeah.
1 catch. You know, he did get the rushing touchdown, which saves the day. But were you really that happy with it? Because he fell into the end zone?
I had to play him. I had one league where my playoff started this week. I played him in the flex. I was happy with him as a flex play, but unfortunately, the other guy had a whole bunch of stars, and I got left behind. And that's kind of what you get when you're starting Devin Neal in your flex. So
exactly. So that's kind of where I'm at with Devin Neal. But again, this is where Alvin Kamara's out, Kendre Miller's on IR. Yes, we get it, Jay. Tampa defense is trash. But again, like, Devin Neal didn't really come out and say, "Yep, I'm the future." But he's got another month to prove it.
Yeah, he does. I think
is the line going to block enough for him is the question. And that's what I'm trying to figure out. Is he struggling because the line has been suspect? Or is he just, that's why he was a 6th-round pick? That's where I'm kind of at on Devin Neal.
And that's where I was going to land is, I feel like Neal is the kind of guy who's going to be better in a complementary role. A true, like, this guy's the pass catcher, I'm the runner sort of thing. Mm-hmm. I like what I'm seeing from Shuck, plain and simple, Josh. And I texted Josh about the weather. I hope most people know you live in the Tampa area, so I hope I'm not doxing you here. But I asked Josh, what's going on with the weather? And he said, stick with Shuck, because I was choosing between Shuck and Herbert. I went Herbert, Josh, and I was just heartbroken that I did not stick with Shuck in that game because he deserved to start. And I called him.
There you go, Hoove. I recommended somebody start Tyler Shuck. You can get off my ass now.
And I also want to give I want to give Hoove a ton of credit, because Hoove analytically tells us, and Hoove has a lot of interesting takes sometimes. But when he comes to the Saints, he does a good job explaining things. We had a really thoughtful conversation, Hoove and I did a while back, about if Kellen Moore could do this with Spencer Rattler, who's to say he couldn't do it with Tyler Shuck when he took over? And I think we're seeing some just really, really good stuff out there. And same opportunity Shuck has to show the Saints they don't need Mendoza, which I think is huge. And that kind of was Hoove's point this whole time. He says 1 for 100 on Hoove. I'm not going to take any Hoove blasphemy, but Josh, I spent stream of the week this week because Jacoby Brissett is always stream of the week.
Yeah.
I spent stream of the week telling people, go start Tyler Shuck instead. I think it's a good matchup against this defense. The weather scared me off a bit, but maybe it shouldn't have. And Josh, my player.
Mind you, Tyler Shuck outplayed Jacoby Brissett in fantasy.
He really did. Absolutely.
Just throwing that out there. Yep. Jacoby Brissett was QB 12. Shuck was QB 7.
Josh, when I looked at the honorable mentions, so I made the whole list because I could not decide on somebody. And I actually almost took Michael Wilson. And earlier in the chat, Jay said that Michael Wilson is MHJ's daddy.
I can't remember who posted it, but Michael Wilson has more receiving yards this year than Marvin Harrison. And here's the funny thing. If you break it down to targets per game, even in all those games that Michael Wilson played and wasn't seeing a ton of targets, he's averaging more targets per game than Marvin Harrison Jr.
I do think you mentioned another team. I can't remember who it was, Josh. You said they're a team in transition. I feel like Arizona's in the same boat now because they're about to move on from Kyler. Are they likely to run with Jacoby Brissett next year? I think they probably are.
But you know what, though? I feel like that only works if Drew Petzing remains as the OC, because
that's true too.
Jacoby Brissett knows this offense from his 1 year in Cleveland with Petzing.
Yeah. For my player of the week, my shot of espresso, I'm going with the guy I went with last week. When I looked at this list, I just didn't fall in love with anyone. So I'm going to talk to you guys about RJ Harvey again. And that's because last week we talked about how he was bailed out by touchdowns. But Josh, this week We finally get this like competitive game. It was more competitive than we thought it would be against the Raiders. And RJ Harvey got it done with volume. 17 carries, 23 touches, 4.4 yards per carry, finds the end zone again, 6 targets. But Josh, what I like to do when I talk about these things is I look at the splits. Every other running back for the Broncos had 10 carries combined. 2 of those were a fullback. Every other running back for the Broncos had 4 targets combined. 2 of those were a fullback. RJ Harvey is the lead back here. And what this is doing is building faith for him moving into next season and certainly moving into the rest of these games. He is the guy. We saw finally an efficient outing, 75 yards, finds the end zone again, but far more importantly, Josh, 6 catches for 25 yards, just adding 8 fantasy points to his total. I felt a lot better about RJ Harvey this week, even than I did last week when he scored that second touchdown in overtime.
So. Yeah, and that's what we talked about, was that he was still going to have his role, which was the pass catching role. Yep. That was going to be his thing. And then Dobbins goes out. Then it was, okay, he's going to see an increase in carries. But how much? Can he continue to show some level? Like, we knew he was scoring touchdowns, and he still continues to do that. But can he show some level of the team can rely on him as a runner? And again, when you get the opportunity in the rushing and all that stuff, like, he has to be able to show it. The Raiders are a good spot to do that. And maybe that, bodes well, provides some confidence when he goes against some tougher teams. But, this is what you wanted to see. Like, he's going to continue to grow into the role. He's probably never going to be a full bell cow. But if he can do this in spurts, like, Dobbins is only on a 1-year deal. Maybe they bring him back. Maybe they don't. Maybe they bring somebody else to come and play that role. But we at least see that, all right, Harvey can do this if called upon. But we need to know that, hey, even if he only gets 10 carries a game, he can be efficient with those carries and provide fantasy value.
Yeah, shout out to Vince Mapstone, who was RJ Harvey from the RIP supporter right there. We buy homes as we get back into the chat. We talked about Jaden Daniels quite a bit in this show. We do think certainly in a 10-team league, Josh, Jaden Daniels is 100% droppable when you have Dak Prescott at quarterback.
100% if you have Dak. You don't need Jaden Daniels.
And 6-point passing. Like, that just everything in this league, you do not need Jaden Daniels. So we didn't give I had a whole diatribe about why I'm mad at Washington about Jaden Daniels, but for the most part, in redraft fantasy football, Jaden Daniels, easily droppable asset. Keenan said Brian Schottenheimer comes out 20 minutes ago and says that CeeDee Lamb is doing well and progressing nicely. Keenan's hoping that he's not just getting our hopes up. Josh, I think this 10-day break is what's going to break this streak on these concussion players. I do think, and Dallas needs to win. I do think we see CeeDee Lamb back.
Yeah, and again, it just boils down to how's the body going to respond, because everybody is different. So, yeah, I mean, I'd like to think, because of the 10-day break, this benefits CeeDee Lamb and his ability to play in Week 15. But, we won't know until it actually happens and he clears protocol.
Yep. And I love seeing everybody playing nice on a Monday morning. Chris Molina actually agreeing with Hoove. Everybody was shocked to see this, but he says he only agrees with Hoove for 2026. He thinks they're going to roll Tyler Shough out there.
Well, yeah. And again, it just boils down to, what are the Saints going to do to improve around the quarterback position heading into 2026? Because there's still a lot of holes on this team. And, you're going to be in a good spot to get a top 10 draft pick. Maybe you can add a talented player. Maybe you decide to trade back because you like the value later. You add more assets.
Yeah.
This team is in cap hell, and they've been in cap hell for 20 years.
Yep.
So you've got to be able to start infusing youth and talent, young talent, onto this team. That's how you improve, plain and simple, in the salary cap era.
There we go.
You've got to hit on your draft picks.
The Week 14 edition of Panic or Chill the Fuck Out is a little different from what we've been doing this season. We're going to now talk about, as we start to glance into 2026, which has been a lot of this show, how do we feel about these players coming off of a relatively disappointing season? Josh, we're starting with the quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson, you put the notes in here, so I'm going to let you read the notes, and then we'll talk about how we're handling it.
Yeah, Lamar currently is QB 16 on the season. That does improve when you look at, missed games. He's tied for the QB 11 in points per game with Jared Goff. If you had that on your bingo card for 2025, I'm sure you probably managed to win $1 million. Look, he was the consensus top 2 pick at the quarterback position. we've seen the struggles. Maybe he's playing hurt. At the end of the day, he's just not comfortable. Todd Monken, as an offensive coordinator, has clearly regressed.
Yep.
I don't know if the offensive line has struggled. Derrick Henry's not seeing the field well. Clearly, Lamar Jackson is not. How are you looking at this performance in 2025 and translating it into 2026? Is this just a one-year hiccup? Because we've seen bad Lamar in the past, and then he shows up and plays at an MVP level. Or is this the new Lamar? Are you going to feel comfortable saying he's a top 5 quarterback heading into 2026?
I was ready to be very confident until you said top 5. And that's where he's a top 10 quarterback heading into next year.
100%.
I don't think this is the new Lamar. He's been on and off battling an injury. I told you his unwillingness to run the football scared the hell out of me 2 weeks ago. I saw it this week. He was ready to run the football again. So I do think moving forward for fantasy, Lamar is definitely top 10, probably top 8. Josh, I don't think I'm willing to go top 5, which definitely means he'll be on none of my fantasy teams because he's going to get drafted that way.
And that's kind of where I'm at. I still think that the consensus is probably going to put him at top 5 because that's just what the consensus does. It's the same reason why Justin Jefferson is consistently ranked as a top 15 wide receiver, and he hasn't performed that way. People love names. They love, what I know what you did for me previously, but I'm going to forget what you've done for me lately, which is the complete opposite of the NFL as a whole. This season, I think more than anything has proved how important it is to be functional throwing the football when it comes to fantasy football.
And there were a lot of analysts that had said that this offseason, that fantasy managers are falling way too in love with these rushing quarterbacks. And we saw an enormous...
I've been on this train for like 3 years, mind you.
Yeah.
Like, you need to be able to throw the football. That's why I've been down on Justin Fields all this time. Well, I don't care what you do with your legs. You can get 800 yards rushing if you're Anthony Richardson and still be QB 20 because you can't throw the ball consistently.
Well, I think you hit another nail on the head, though, is we're not seeing that this season. The number 1 rushing quarterback right now is Josh Allen. He's still not above 500 yards, Josh.
Yeah, exactly. But
so if you can't throw,
QB1 because it's Josh Allen. But he can throw the football. And
I was just going to say, the rushing has been the icing on the cake with those 12 touchdowns.
And it's the same thing with Patrick Mahomes. Like, Patrick Mahomes is the only other quarterback with more than 400 yards rushing.
Yeah.
So, rushing props you up, sure, but you have to complement it.
Relatively eerily how close Mahomes and Josh Allen are in stats this year, not counting the rushing touchdowns.
Correct.
3,000 yards for Allen, 3,400 almost for, it's actually 31 and 34. 22 touchdowns passing each, 10 interceptions each. It's just Mahomes has thrown the ball a lot more than Josh Allen, and then Josh Allen has run the ball into the end zone a whole lot more than anybody else in the NFL.
Yep.
100%. Yeah, I would say, I guess I'm panicked, I guess is the best way to say it, Josh. I don't think I'm going to go into next season immediately thinking of Lamar Jackson as a top 5 quarterback. And even if I did, Josh, I don't know that I see the value on Lamar versus waiting on guys like Jackson Dart next season.
Well, and that's the thing. And this is also why I'm kind of panicking. We've seen these quarterbacks that rely so heavily on their legs, taking hits after hits after hits, and how fast they fall. Look at the cliff that Cam Newton fell off of.
Collapsed. Yep.
Just saying. And Lamar has never been a big guy. And he's never been somebody that, I'm going to slide or I'm going to run out of bounds. Like, he takes those hits. At the end of the day, that wears on your body over the years.
Yep. Josh, at running back, you got Saquon Barkley. I'll let you go ahead and read your blurb here.
Yeah. For somebody that was very down on Saquon, even he has disappointed me in my expectations. He's currently RB 17 on the season, RB 19 in points per game. There were many people that were still taking him as the RB1. I put him as a consensus top 3 pick. He came in, I think, as my RB7 preseason, which again, still disappointing for me. But this Eagles offense has clearly been a mess. Barkley's season has come under fire as one of the reasons why. There's definitely been plenty of them. We've seen bad Barkley in the past, and a lot of it has boiled down to, piss poor offensive line play with the Giants, nicked up with injuries, yada, yada, yada. He did suffer a groin injury at one point this season, but it really hasn't been, he's missed, a string of games because
we're not calling this an injury-riddled season.
So heading into 2026, are we looking at this as a one-year hiccup? Because this is the most expensive offense in the NFL, mind you.
Yeah.
And things are probably going to be altering and changing a little bit heading into 2026 for Philly. Or is Barkley just not a top-end running back in the NFL anymore? Because you've got some young guys like a Jahmyr Gibbs, Devon Achane, Breece Hall to an extent, Bijan Robinson. They're carrying this mantle. And these older guys, this is what happens at the running back position. How are you looking at Barkley right now heading into next year?
So the issue with me, Josh, is I'm the wrong person to ask this question because I was bought in with you from the very beginning. Barkley was never a top 5 running back for me this season, and you bumped him down. I think he probably ended up my RB 6 or 7. But I was always in more on the more dynamic players. When you have a guy like Barkley who was never heavily involved in the passing game, and then you expect to step back in efficiency, it was easy for me not to look at him that way. I will say next year, it's all going to come down to ADP for me. And if he's not going to do what I'm about to say, if he were to fall to the late second, early third, I'm still in on Saquon Barkley. But if we're talking first, it's full panic for me. I'm not touching him in the first, just like I didn't touch him in the first this year. Saquon Barkley is on 0 of my fantasy teams. And if his ADP doesn't reflect a step back in age and a step back in efficiency, he's not going to be on any of my teams next year.
Yeah, the only I have him on 2 teams. One of them's a dynasty team that's competing. The other one is our Club Fantasy Writers League because he was my keeper. That's literally the only reason that I have the Barkley on any teams because, again, I was very out on him. I think the question begs, and you mentioned, it's very ADP specific. Would you trust him as your RB1? Which, again, I think that kind of plays into this. Is he a top 10 for you? Is he a top 12 for you? Because really, that's what you would be looking at if he was your RB1.
Gut call is no, I wouldn't. I would prefer to call Saquon Barkley my RB2 next year. The fact of the matter is this: with running backs, volume and father time are undefeated. Mm-hmm. Barkley could be Derrick Henry. I feel like there's one Derrick Henry and that's it.
So in that instance, yeah, I would agree with you. I think it's panic mode because I kind of look at him as an upside top 15 running back.
Yeah, he's because
right now I do not trust this Eagles offensive line. I don't know what the issues are. I know Dickerson has been banged up. Obviously, right now Lane Johnson is on IR, and you want to talk about father time. He's coming up on it. Even as good as he is, the body's just wearing down, plain and simple. But they haven't gotten the progression they wanted out of Tyler Steen at the other guard position, at right guard, or left guard. Mailata has always been better as a pass protector than a run blocker, in my opinion. Cam Jurgens injured.
Yeah.
There's hiccups here all around. So unless that improves, which again, Howie Roseman's always been the guy that he's going to prioritize the lines. He's going to prioritize the trenches. So I'm curious to see where he ultimately goes, not only this offseason, but within the draft in the first few rounds.
Yep. Josh, you got Brian Thomas. You got some notes here.
Yeah, so he's currently wide receiver 45 on the season, averaging only 10.2 points per game. He was a consensus top 8 wide receiver heading into the season. I touted him as high as wide receiver 2 at one point in the offseason because we saw the upside at the end of that season. But we haven't seen it with Trevor Lawrence, and that was always the problem.
Yep, he's
battled some injuries this year and has only scored 1 touchdown. But I think the most alarming thing here, he's only had 64 targets. He's only catching 50.7% of his targets.
Yikes.
And that is a big problem. So I think when you're looking at and trying to project for 2026, given what we know how this offense is set up, which version of BTJ is the real one? Is it 2024 or is it 2025? Because he's supposedly playing this Mike Evans role in this Liam Cohen offense. It seems like in this offense, Liam Cohen prefers the Chris Godwin role.
I agree. I am not panicked on Brian Thomas Jr. because I am looking at this as a injury-riddled season where things didn't go right. He's learning a system. I have seen enough good things in his games back that I'm going to be in on him as a wide. Again, Josh, you know me. I don't hate players. I hate ADP. It's going to be if I can land him as a wide receiver 2 next season, because this year everybody had him as a wide receiver 1, myself included, and he sunk some seasons. I got burned by Brian Thomas this year, but not so burned I'm not going to believe in him next year. I think another year with Liam Cohen, Trevor Lawrence isn't going anywhere, a whole nother offseason to learn this role and to hopefully be healthy. You mentioned the 50% catch rate, terrible, but even Mike Evans is a 55 to 57% catch rate. We need Brian Thomas to be a 15 to 16 yard per catch guy, and way more importantly, find the fucking end zone. He did great with it as a rookie. He did terrible with it in his second year. I'm going to hope there's a happy medium in the third year rather. I'm still in on Brian Thomas Jr. as long as I can get him as a wide receiver 2. I'm not panicked on Brian Thomas Jr. I can say that.
Yeah, of the first 2 guys that I talked about here, I think Brian Thomas Jr. is the only one that legitimately will have a case to where his ADP next year will be far lower than what it was heading into this season.
Yeah, I agree.
People will view him more as a wide receiver 2, like an upside wide receiver 2, right?
Yeah.
So I think you're probably looking at, I'd say between 20 and 27 would probably be where I think he would probably end up getting ranked. And again, I think it's less an indictment of, what he did this year versus what he can do in 2026, and more of, well, we expect Travis Hunter to be back next year. They're probably not going to re-sign Jacoby Myers. It would surprise me if they did. And if they did, that tells me that Travis Hunter is probably going to play more defense. But I don't think that's why they took him at second overall. They took him because they want him to play wide receiver. But you still run into how much defense is Travis Hunter going to play in a given week.
Yeah.
And that lends itself to upside and opportunity for Brian Thomas, because if there's a week where they need Travis Hunter to play more defense, Brian Thomas now takes that big step up.
For sure.
In targets in a given week. So, and I think that those will be enough games to keep him afloat into that wide receiver 2 conversation. Again, it just boils down to Trevor Lawrence has got to throw more touchdowns, because right now this offense is operating better when they're running the football into the end zone.
Yep. See some new names in the chat. We are going to knock out the chat right after this last player. So just stick with us for a few more moments. And Josh, we bring it to Club Fantasy's least favorite tight end, Mr. TJ Hockenson. I'll just read this off for you. Was the consensus tight end 5 being drafted. Not if you listen to us. He's the tight end 25 in points per game at about 8 points per game. Is this a JJ McCarthy problem, or is Hawk washed, Josh?
I don't think Hawk was any good to begin with. So I'm going to say washed. I think there's a little bit to the, I don't even want to say it's a JJ McCarthy problem. 3 tight ends scored touchdowns for them this week.
Yep.
3. JJ McCarthy is clearly targeting the tight end more so than Justin Jefferson. Again, TJ Hawkins is just not good. He's not. I feel like his body just broke down on him right away after that injury. 3 targets this week, 12 yards. Yes, he found the end zone, but it's just like he is a touchdown dependent streaming option. And Josh, hilariously, he's never been below 50% rostered. He has never made the stream of the week list because everybody's holding on to him. He hasn't been better than the tight end 15 in weeks. Awful.
Yeah.
And there were people that were legitimately saying, because the ADP of Jefferson and Addison and Hockenson lined up to make JJ McCarthy a top 12 guy. Cool. You still have to play, and JJ McCarthy can't play right now. And Hockenson just isn't good. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we were properly hesitant on these folks because I brought up at the beginning of the season, however you felt about Michael Penix should have been the exact way you felt about JJ McCarthy and vice versa.
It's all coming to fruition.
Yeah, exactly. And it looks exactly right. Josh, let's knock out the chat. Let's knock out Monday Night Football and let's get the hell out of here. We Buy Homes pours a little water on RJ Harvey, says it was the Raiders. I think that is a legitimate thing.
And we literally said that, or at least I did. So
you did. But all I'm going to counterpoint is Harvey has a nose for the end zone. And in my fantasy playoffs, that's gonna fit my RB2 flex spot just about every week. So Quincy says he's regretting dropping Charbonnet for AD Mitchell. I feel like I made some moves like that last week too. He says every time he drops somebody, they seem to go off. You know what, Quincy? I relate. because every time I rail on somebody on tomorrow's waiver show, they seem to go off. Shout out to my guy, why am I drawing him? Rashid Shaheed, who I've been telling the world is worthless and then has his best game as a Seahawk this week.
Well, he also had a return touchdown, too.
Yeah,
so
but he just hates the Atlanta Falcons that much.
Yeah.
We buy homes.
Here's the thing with A.D. Mitchell, though. You can't predict when Tyrod Taylor is going to get hurt, even though he's 36 years old and probably every snap he takes is his last one. But, I mean, like, that's not. Yeah.
Weird game. We're not holding that completely.
It was weird. And the same thing with Charbonnet. Seahawks were up big.
Yeah.
Blake Corum, Rams, up big.
I will say, and he'll probably need to be on the list next week, I'm starting to get a little antsy about my love of Kenneth Walker. I will say that. Just it's been a weird season. We Buy Homes ask for waiver priority. I'll remind everybody watching the show, we do a complete waiver show tomorrow. But Josh, I'm not going to read this whole list because there's no entertainment in that. Based on this list for me, it's either Devin Neal or Brian Thomas Jr. just because it's not that great of a list. So,
yeah, I mean, I think Jordan Mason gets propped up because of a touchdown. Tony Pollard, this was literally his best game of the season.
Yeah, I'm not going.
I could understand prioritizing Jalen Wright only if you are the Devon Achane manager.
1,000%.
Trey Benson should not even be on this list.
No, he should not.
Luther Burden, if you think that Rome Odunze is going to miss any more games, that's the only reason you prioritize him. To me, it's Neal or Hubbard, honestly. Okay. Maybe BTJ, but yeah. Charbonnet, kind of the same thing. Unless I have Kenneth Walker, I'm not beating down the doors to get him.
Exactly. And then Bang and Play. How do we feel about trading for Nico? He's willing to give up Jalen Hurts when he already has Jackson Dart.
I'm fine with it. If it's redraft and not superflex, I'm more than willing to offload a star quarterback to get a star position player, because most people will not give up a star position player for a star quarterback, because quarterbacks you can stream. Tyler Shuck, QB7 this week. Jacoby Brissett, QB12. We talk about it literally every week.
Josh pointed out QB3 to QB17, one touchdown separating them in scoring, folks. Yep. Go get Nico Collins, who looked great again last night. Let's move on to the Monday night game. We got Josh's Eagles traveling across the country to the Los Angeles Chargers. Eagles are a 3-point favorite. Over-under on this game, a low 40.5. I think that's some questions about the quarterback play for the Chargers. I will remind everybody, if you have not yet signed up with Underdog, we are going to give you some Underdog picks on this show. You can use promo code WOFF, WOFF. You will get a free pick and a first-time deposit match offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Gator has been killing it. Absolutely killing it with the picks that he's giving you in our Discord. So jump into that Discord. Gator, for I believe the third time in the last 4 weeks, went 3-0. He is on a 15-4 run in the last 6 weeks, 28-19 on the season. For his pick for the show this week, he is telling you to take Justin Herbert higher than 17.5 rushing yards. He has hit this in 9 of 12 games this season, and he has at least 3 rushing attempts in all but 1 game this season. He will drop a 3-leg parlay in our Discord when this show ends. Josh and I also give you some picks. Josh, I stuck with the Chargers and went Oronde Gadsden lower than 3.5 receptions. He has not hit 4 receptions since week 9. And the Eagles, as Josh mentioned earlier in the show, are great against the tight end. They have only allowed 4 receptions to a tight end once since week 8. You guys have been shutting down the tight end, Josh.
The Kobe Dean effect, baby. Although it's come at the expense of Jahad Campbell's playing time, who looked fantastic in the first half of the season. Yeah. But Nakobe Dean is so good.
I went with the volume part of this instead of the yardage part of this, because I hate that like 2 catches or even 1 catch, he could accidentally break a 31-yard run. I don't even love his yardage part, but certainly on the volume, Josh, I don't think he sees 4 catches tonight. We've pointed out all these reasons for the last 4 weeks. Yep. They need the tight end to help blocking, whether that's Gadsden or that's Gadsden off the field. I don't see 4 catches from him tonight.
I agree.
And you got to pick from the other side of the ball, Mr. A.J. Brown.
Yeah, I'm going to go A.J. Brown higher than 60.5 receiving yards. Look, he's at 2 straight over 100. He's had 3 straight games over 10 targets, 10 or more targets. So that tells you, like, I understand they've lost their last 2 games. This offense just straight up looks better when they're throwing the football to A.J. Brown.
Yeah.
They need to get him involved. And while the Chargers do play good defense, they get beaten plenty of times by wide receivers this season. They've allowed all of these guys to top 61 yards, which is basically the prop that you're going for A.J. Brown. Hollywood Brown, Jacoby Myers twice, Cortland Sutton, Deebo Samuel, Jalen Waddle, Alec Pierce.
Good Lord.
Even Justin Jefferson topped this mark against the Chargers. And we know how bad he's been this season.
Yeah.
This should be a pretty easy line for them.
I like it.
For AJ Brown to hit. This feels like a layup, truthfully. It really does. But I get it because the 2 games prior to that 100, he was at 44 and 13 yards. So this feels like a good middle ground, which is going to get people to bite on it. But the Eagles need this game, in my opinion. And for as talented as this team is, they can't not throw AJ Brown the football.
Yeah. It seems like he's kind of reestablished himself as the alpha there. I don't think this is going to be any problem whatsoever. That wraps up a very long episode of Monday's Hangxiety. I'll just remind you folks in the outro that we are going to be live again tomorrow to talk all of your waiver needs for Wiretap. That's Josh and I again tomorrow morning, Tuesday morning at 11 a.m., where we will break down our top waiver wire picks and answer all of your questions as we always do. I hope you get your Monday miracles. Unless you're playing me, I'm getting us out of here. We'll see you folks tomorrow.